All right, so this is question number 2 today for our live segment. And this question came up twice on YouTube, one time on Facebook, and one time in my webinar. So it's a more common question recently. I don't know why, but it is. But it's a question of when I do squats, my back pain gets worse. And the question really is, why is that? Or is that okay? Now, one of the things that I preach is if you have a bad back, squats are some of the best exercises you can do, because when you have a bad back, you need to activate and strengthen your glutes, which are your primary movers and very important stabilizers of your spine. So if you have weak glutes, very often you will perpetuate a back problem. So I tell patients to do squats. Now, there is a time when squats can make you worse. And I'm going to explain a little bit about the spine and why you can be worse. But not everybody has this problem. Everybody is a little bit different. And there are certain types of hips that will actually make you more prone to having back problems when you do the squat, but there's a way to avoid it. I'm going to show you why, and then I'm going to show you how you can avoid it or what you can do. And the one thing you need to be aware of is, this is my back. I had a severe back problem. I no longer have pain. I had severe pain for years and years and years and years, and I couldn't do squats. I couldn't really do anything because it hurt so bad. But now I do squats, and I can squat, maybe 250 pounds without any problems at all. I'm not encouraging everybody to start squatting heavy weights because it's not good for everybody. But my point is, I have a severely degenerated disc, and when this MRI was taken, I had a pretty severely herniated disc. I have some stenosis, and I had sciatica on both my legs. So I know back pain, and I know the problems, but I can do it. And the key is, if you do it properly, then you won't have a problem. But I'm going to define a little bit about the spine so you know why you have a problem when you squat. Some of you may have seen this, and I did it not too long ago, but this is a typical spine. Head's here, hips are here. There's 24 vertebrae. Between the head and the hips, the vertebrae are the bones. In between each bone, there is a disc. The disc allows for motion of the vertebrae. Now, when you squat and you start to develop some back problems, very often you're starting to develop a problem in your disc, or you have a problem in your disc that is aggravating the spine or aggravating with the load. Now, when you're squatting, very often you're holding the barbell on your shoulders. And as you squat down, what it does is it starts to very often stress the disc. So one vertebrae on top of the other, the disc is in between the vertebrae. The disc is a lot like a jelly donut in the sense that the outside there's a thick material, inside there's a jelly-like substance. The key to the disc is when the center of gravity goes right through the middle of the disc, the stresses are distributed evenly in all directions on the annulus. When you squat, sometimes what can happen is you can flex when you get to the lowest part of your spine or the squat, and when you flexed at the lowest part of your squat, what you do is you force pressure on the annulus, and very often you'll force it into one area. And if you're bearing load, meaning you're doing squats with weights, very often what you're doing is you're compressing that annulus at a very, very high level. So the key to doing squats is maintaining your posture as you go up and down. So you have the barbell on your shoulder. I'm going to stand up, so make sure you can see me. So you have the barbell on your shoulder, and as you go up and down, you need to make sure you maintain your posture. That's good. You make sure you maintain your posture. The posture is to keep the spine in this position. As you squat down, very often what happens is when you get to the bottom, because of your hip joints, the pelvis will roll forward just a little bit. That's flexion. They call it a wink. Okay, but what's really happening is you're flexing, and when you're flexing, you're loading the disc, and it's forcing the annulus out. And as it forces the annulus out, you're going to start to cause some pain because you're going to start to damage a little bit of the annulus. under the load with the hips sort of going into a position where you flex at the lowest part, then you're loading the disc, okay? So what happens, as you go down, you want to make sure you maintain that posture, okay? In that position, the spine is most stable and you're not loading the disc. But if you go too far, what happens is your spine does this. So if you're squatting and you have pain, make sure you don't go to the point where the spine does this, because that's when you're going to start to damage the annulus. Not uncommon, heavy lifters, they say, you know, I've been squatting for years and now I'm starting to have some back trouble. It's not uncommon, they started to have a little bit of damage on the disc. So what I tell them, look, is don't go as far. Okay, everybody says, oh, you have to go to 45 degrees. Well, if you're 45 degrees, puts you in a position where you're over-flexing your spine, you're going to damage the disc. So what you have to do is you have to have, if you can't figure it out yourself, you have to have somebody watch you to see when you squat, if you're maintaining that position or what's happening when you get to the bottom, you're flexing. Okay, it's not going to flex 4 inches. It's going to flex maybe a ½ inch or an inch, but it's enough to cause the damage to the disc. So if you're having back pain when you squat, is it okay? It's not okay. You want to make sure you don't go down to the position where you're getting that flexion. That's the area that people have. Now, the depth of your hip joint, meaning how deep that capsule or how deep the ball and socket is, will also dictate how far you can squat. If you have a real deep hip joint, you're not going to be able to squat as deep. The narrower hip joints can actually squat deeper. Okay, the goal is not to squat deep. The goal is to activate your glutes, and you don't have to go down all the way to activate your glutes. Matter of fact, if you have a big problem, you can do a single leg squat because you don't have to go down a little bit. But that's a different lesson for a different day. So the question is today, is squatting bad? No, squatting's not bad. Squatting might be the best thing you can do. Maybe not with heavy weights, although those aren't real heavy weights. But at the same time, if you go too far into your squat, you're going to change the angle of the load and you're going to damage the disc. So you just have to be careful, that's all. Just make sure you're not doing this. That's it. Okay? Because as you start to force that nucleus out, what happens is they'll start to go through the annulus and start to compromise the nerves a little bit. Okay? We have the ability to solve this. If you have this problem, we can make you better. That's the key. So, if you're on Facebook, I want you to like our Facebook page. You'll be updated when we do live. We did 2 live today. I don't think we've ever done that before. And if you're on YouTube, I want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like, share, comment, anything else you want to do, ask questions. So the question today was about the back pain with the squat. Somebody else asked a question about the knee pain when they squat. Tends to be a similar problem, but more of a muscle sort of weakness, but we'll talk about that. So that's it for today. I'm out. I'm done. Be careful. Be safe. And we're out.